I'll give you an example of something fascinating. There's a book that was written in 1990 called The Cosmic Winter, where a couple of an astronomer, Bill Napier, and an astrophysicist, Victor Klube, worked backwards from calculating the meteor showers, the Taurids, the Perseids, the Pisces, the Orionids, and some very large objects, the comets Enki and Rudenki, a couple of asteroids, Olatunji and Festos, I believe. I'm talking from memory here now.
Mm-hmm.
And what was so remarkable was that they found, using some sophisticated computer software, that all of these objects and all of these meteor showers are offspring of the same massive comet.
That's scary. Whitley, stay with us. More to come with Whitley Strieber in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. I'm George Norrie. Well, next hour, Whitley's editor and my editor, Robert Gleason, joins us, who happens to be the author of Apocalypse 2012. We're going to talk with him about 2012 as well, and more with Whitley when we come right back on Coast to Coast AM. Welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. We've got Whitley Strieber tonight on Coast to Coast. Whitley, what kind of changes are you seeing out there, specifically on planet Earth, that could be related to what the Mayans were talking about?
Well, on planet Earth in particular, of course, there's a lot of change going on. What happens here is intimately connected, as is all the solar system, with what happens on the sun. And right now, the solar wind, the solar atmosphere has contracted dramatically because the sun has been so quiet, with the result that cosmic rays are coming into the solar system 50% more than they were just a few years ago. At the same time, Earth's magnetic field is getting weaker because of the fact that without the solar wind, Earth's magnetic field also tends to contract. So cosmic rays, more intensity, are reaching the surface. Now, these are not rays; they're actually individual protons. They're called cosmic rays, but it's a misnomer. It should be called a cosmic proton shower or something. In any case,
now these aren't X flares, right? Or are they?
No. These are the actual cosmic rays, and cosmic rays come from any number of different energetic sources in the universe. Supernovas cause them. There was recently, last year, there was an article in Nature magazine, the science magazine Nature, about a dark matter object somewhere out there that is bombarding us with cosmic rays. So they have a lot of different origins. The point I'm making, though, is that we associate cosmic rays, intense cosmic ray bombardment, with evolutionary changes, because they were like any kind of radiation. They're flying through the bodies of all the living creatures and altering DNA. And so we could be experiencing something like that right now. We have this complicated global climate change situation.
Yeah.
And in Superstorm, I might add, by the way, that just recently, it was in fact just on November the 11th in the New Scientist, an article was published saying, and I quote, just months, that's how long it took for Europe to be engulfed by an ice age. The scenario, which comes straight out of the Hollywood blockbuster The Day After Tomorrow, was revealed by the most precise record of the climate from paleohistory ever generated. This happened 12,800 years ago. And I seem to remember Art and I getting laughed at an awful lot and scorned by not only by environmentalists, but by people who thought global warming was nonsense and didn't really understand. We weren't talking about that. And not only that, it says here, it was triggered by the slowdown of the Gulf Stream. And that's exactly what Art and I had identified as the cause of the superstorm back in 1998. But because we're not scientists, we're not given credit for it.
When those ocean currents start to warm up or cool down, this planet starts doing weird things.
Doing weird things. Right now, for example, there's a cooling process taking place in the Pacific Ocean that is cyclical. At the same time, it's being intensified in two very unexpected ways. First, the sun is far quieter now than we ever expected to be. And second, the recession has caused a dramatic decline in the amount of carbon dioxide being emitted by human beings. So it's a triple whammy in terms of cooling. It's going to get cooler here before it gets warmer. So much for global warming.
Exactly. And if a 100-foot wide asteroid hit us, or meteor, and it hit a city on this planet, 100-foot wide, it would be devastating. First thing everybody would do in the morning, planet-wide, Whitley, would be, I'm glad it wasn't my city, and it would probably be the biggest story of the year on all media.
Biggest story of many years if the whole city was evaporated.
So. Just gone. Gone. That would tell the world just how vulnerable this planet is. And, I'm sure they would then kick up an early warning system, which they've kind of been lagging behind.
Well, they probably ought to do that. And I'll tell you why. That in the last segment, I talked about the book, The Cosmic Winter. It's a very important book for this period, even though it was published in 1990, by an astrophysicist and an astronomer. And tonight, I'm purposely not going in the direction of edge scientists because I don't actually need to talk about these changes. Now, what they are saying is that this mega comet passed Earth close 12,600 years ago. This caused the deaths of 40 million animals, including all of the mammoths, all of the mastodons. It killed off all of the people in North America entirely. The whole Clovis culture disappeared. There was a gigantic flood when the Laurentide ice sheet collapsed, a flood that covered, if you can believe it, North America from the Rockies all the way to New York. And in the process, that all of the people who were living here were killed. It was repopulated slowly over the next 2,000 or 3,000 years. Now, Earth crosses, according to their calculations, Earth crosses through the densest part of this comet, of the remains of this comet, about every 2,000 to 4,000 years. Now, they looked at climate and ice core records and saw this pattern. Iridium, helium-3, nitrate, and other key measurements rise and fall in tandem. Peaks coming 18,000 years ago, 16,000 years ago, 13,000 years ago when this happened, 9,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago when extraordinary things happened on this planet. Incredible things. The Egyptian Old Kingdom collapsed. Utsi the Iceman was running through an alpine meadow in the Tyrol, and he was either killed or overcome by a storm and found still encased in the glacier as it was melting 5,000 years later. In other words, that alpine meadow was covered with snow that then did not melt for 5,000 years. Now, that's in the Alps. In Peru, the same thing happened. The Bird Polar Research Institute researcher Lonnie Thompson found glaciers in Peru that had at their bases quick frozen plants, frozen so quickly their cells hadn't collapsed. In other words, they didn't even wilt. They're like frozen food that fast. And those glaciers are 5,000 years old. In a matter of minutes or even seconds,
it's like being
that cold.
It's like being tossed into a freezer
and
instantly.
Then the freezer never gets turned off again.
Never, yeah.
Never. Now, we are in another period. Klube and Napier predicted that in the year 2000 and continuing for 400 years, Earth would enter another dangerous time in which our planet's orbit would bring us into potential collision course with the densest part of the clouds containing some very large debris. And what do we see What were we talking about now? Just a few minutes ago, here in 2009. But an increasing number of objects appearing in our solar system, striking the planets and coming closer and closer to our own planet. It is absolutely crazy that we are so lackadaisical about watching for these things now. Two excellent